Hi, Scott.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing good. I can't believe I just said it's like July. It's insane. So it's crazy. So, what topic do you have for us today?
Before we jump into the topic, I just want to
Yeah.
announce we have a bunch of work groups starting here in July. We didn't have much in June, but we're back up, ramped up in July. We've got a sex addiction part one group taught by me starting on July 12th. We've got a porn addiction part one group taught by me starting on July 16th. So if you're a sex or porn addict or have a partner who is, please look into those. It's a great way to get started in recovery. Troy Love is teaching healing attachment wounds on July 15. That's a
Excellent.
6-week course, and it's great for underlying issues and old wounds that are still affecting us. Um,
Shame.
yeah. And then we have a Betrayed Partners group starting July 22nd. So if you're a betrayed partner, you need some pro-dependent support. Angela Spearman teaches that. That's a 12-week course. It's really great. The women in that group tend to really bond, and that's a co-ed group. So if you're a male betrayed partner, you can join that one too. Um, so that's all that good stuff.
And
The
I did
top,
put the link in the chat. So if you're joining live,
thank you.
you can go directly to, and that has the list of all of them. If you're watching this later, go to Seeking Integrity, and you'll see work group tab on across the top, and you click, and you'll see the whole list. And you can check out each one has their dates, their length of time, and the time is provided in Pacific time zone and Eastern time zone. And if you're in other ones, it'll convert for you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So our topic today is I'm calling this recovery when you don't feel like it. Um,
That's a good
because
one.
it's July and it was 116 degrees here yesterday, and I'm telling you, I didn't want to do anything, let alone recovery. And I've been, I had my work group, alumni group, which is a free group last night, and several of the guys were talking about just having the blahs, and even in the work group that I taught, which was a part three work group yesterday, one of the guys was like, I'm sober, but I feel stuck. And so I was like, okay, this is our topic for the week: recovery when you don't feel like it. So I think we might do this slightly differently.
Okay.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to present why we tend to not feel like it, and then maybe we'll pause, and Tammy, you and I can just share a little bit
Okay.
about, and then we'll talk about what we do about it, and then we'll do that again.
Okay.
So we
Perfect.
might have
I'm ready.
a two-parter here. Um, so why we don't feel like recovery. Sometimes we get the blahs. I just feel drained and unmotivated. I feel stuck. I'm always reminded of the Friends theme song. It's like you're always stuck in second gear. Nobody wants to hear me sing, but we feel like that sometimes. And or we might be irritable about the effort that this requires, because recovery does require effort. So there's the blahs, there's complacency. I got this. I've been sober for 30 days. I'm good. I don't need those meetings anymore. This is all under control. Complacency. Um, there's what I call it burnout. Some people call it recovery fatigue. We just sometimes we get emotionally exhausted fighting the addiction, and or we get emotionally exhausted from the lack of trust. And that lack of trust, both sides of the equation get emotionally exhausted from it. As an addict, I get emotionally exhausted that you're not trusting me. As a betrayed partner, I get emotionally exhausted that I'm not trusting you. It wears on us. And sometimes we just want to say, F it, Um, and then the last topic I've got for why we don't feel like it is why bother? Why am I still struggling? I've been at this for 6 whole months, and I'm still struggling. Is it always going to be this hard? Um, and here's a big one: is this all there is? You know, where's the payoff? Honestly, if all I do is recovery, what's the payoff? Am I switching one addiction for another? Sometimes this is the why bother. And that's a big one for a lot of us. So I want to just pause there. Tammy, which of those have you struggled with, and just which ones have you struggled with, or do you struggle with most, and which ones do you see the most?
And two different questions, because
Yeah.
the ones and like I've been doing this a while. But I was thinking, really reflecting early on. Early on, I was so desperate, like I did, but then there was that moment, when like you're talking about, where you kind of go,
Oh,
like, am I gonna have to do this forever? That whole, like, is, oh my gosh, because I was going to like lots and lots of meetings every week and everything. I really immersed myself, and then yeah, some trust things, but it was like group dynamics and all of that. So there was some, there's always, stuff going on when you got a bunch of, people that are trying to do this thing we call recovery. So and then there was a period of time, I'll be honest, when I kind of I got into other things that were good and nurturing, but they weren't 12 step. There was like a period of time where I took a break from that. And when I came back, I was like, I'm never doing that again. Like, it was like this really eye-opening, oh my gosh, I've missed out. So that was one of those things. So there are times when, like, I think, oh, I should go to a meeting. If I'm thinking I should go to a meeting, I need to go to a meeting. If it's like, I'd like to go to a meeting, then I'm more sitting on the fence. I always am grateful if I get my keys, get in the car and go. I'm always grateful. But yeah, I'm still playing the little head game of like, well, you know, I could, make another phone call. I could send another email. I could do, like, I can make all those justifications. So yeah, there's even now there's some things. But then you also asked about, what do I see? And that's honestly, that's a whole lot more. I hear a lot of the I'm stuck. I've been doing this, and I often think I'm hearing half measures, which we talk about, half measures avail us nothing. Like, I'm dabbling in this. And so then you're not really getting the payoff that you talked about too. Like, what's the payoff? If you're really doing this work, things start to change, and you're moving in a different direction. And we talk about the promises, and things start to shift. I hear a lot of the trust one too. I'm sure you do too, in your work groups and things in particular, of like, why doesn't she trust me? And from the partners, I'm using gender here, why is he still not trustworthy? So that one. And if we're never, like, then it goes right to your situation of like, why bother? Because this is what we keep doing. So all of these that you have brought up, and the blahs, I mean, sure, we all have. I mean, like, even if you're not in addiction or dealing with betrayal trauma, sure, like you said, it was 116 there. It's probably comparable here. And, so you just, you can get a little bit of the, you know, but that's kind of normal human stuff. In this world, it's dangerous to let ourselves get stuck. So,
yeah, for me in the beginning, I had a lot of complacency. I get like 3 days sober and think, no, I'm good. I don't need a meeting today. And that didn't help me. You know, and then I would get the why bothers. Where's the payoff? What is the end game here? Because I really didn't know. The end game that got me in the door was make the pain stop, make the consequences stop. And frankly, the pain and the consequences don't stop, because it's about stuff we've already done. The payoff is no more pain, no new pain, no new. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. Lately, I'm drained and unmotivated. It's the blahs for me. The reason we're doing this, I woke up this morning. I thought, I don't want to do the marketing meeting. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do the webinar. It's like, okay. So what do we do about this? And by the way, you can type questions into the Q&A about,
please, yeah.
the recovery blahs or motivation or anything else to do with addiction and recovery, Tammy and I are long recovering addicts. We're happy to answer all of your questions to the best of our ability. And when we don't know, we will say so. So
Yes.
what do we do about it when we don't feel like recovery? The first thing on my list is always, reassess my goals and expectations. And I probably do this a couple of times a year. Just sit down and say, what do I want from recovery? What do I want from life? What am I expecting when I go to a meeting, or what am I expecting when I do this work? Sometimes just a few moments of remembering what my goals are is really, really helpful. And sometimes realizing, oh my God, there's some new goals. Interesting. That's motivating. Goals are motivating. And by the way, when you set goals, don't say, my goal is to never act out again. That's what we call a negative goal. We want positively framed goals. My goal is to be sober. My goal is to be trustworthy. It's not, I want to stop lying, or I want to stop. It's, I want to live addiction free. I want to own my own home. I want to have a healthy relationship with my spouse and children and parents, if possible. We state our goals in the positive. That's motivating. Stating our goals in the negative is kind of, it's just a little semantics thing that makes a big difference. When you do affirmations, same way. Instead of saying, I don't lie anymore, say, I am truthful. Just stating them in the positive makes them more likely to happen. So, do you have new goals? Do you have new expectations? Are the old goals and expectations still in place? Have they changed? And the big thing, and this doesn't often happen in the first year or two of recovery, but somewhere along the way, what is your true north? What is your guiding principle? For me, my guiding principle is, I want to be part of the solution, not the problem. That's what gets me out of the bed every day. That's my true north. And it kind of guides everything I do. And it might sound sort of nebulous and airy-fairy, but am I going to do this today or this today? Well, I run it past my true north. Am I going to go to a meeting today or not? Which one leads to my true north? That's helpful. Another thing, switch it up. Tami mentioned that she has taken a break in the past. I'm not saying take a break. I'm saying switch it up. I'm bored with the meetings I'm going to. Okay, I'm going to go to some different meetings today. I'm going to hear some different stories today. I'm going to hear some different problems and differently worded solutions. I mean, the problems are all the same and the solutions are all the same, meeting to meeting, but the wording will be different and maybe it'll sink in. And sometimes just seeing different faces is exciting. And the other thing with mixing it up or switching it up is try a new approach. Add a men's group or a women's group, add this, or, take a work group, do something you're not doing for your recovery. Just do something different. Don't put recovery on the back burner. Do different stuff in your recovery. Sometimes when I feel stuck and bored, it's like, okay, different meetings, I'll go to this meeting room instead of that one. I happen to live in a city with a whole bunch of meeting rooms, which is great, so I can do that. But after switching it up, be of service. Helping someone else is a great way to break out of my own funk. When I'm just stuck in my own head, my head is a dangerous neighborhood. I need to get out of it. Go help somebody else. I feel better about myself. I realize that my own problems are not that big of a deal. Usually other people's struggles, and this is sad but true, other people's struggles remind us of where we don't want to be, really helps with motivation. It's like, oh, right, that's what happens when I'm not sober. So be of service. Tami and most of you, anybody who follows me and reads my stuff, I'm big on gratitude. Do a gratitude list. I do a 10-item gratitude list every day. The first item on my list is the same. I'm grateful to be sober and in recovery. The next 9 items on my list have to be different today than yesterday, because I want to think, what about my life is actually good? I have a third rule, which is one of the items has to be about me as a person. I'm a shame-based person. So it's like affirmations. It helps me combat my shame. But I do a 10-item gratitude list every day. It grounds me in the present. 9 times out of 10, when we don't feel like recovery, we're stuck in the past or we're future tripping. A gratitude list will ground us in the moment. And in the moment, life is typically fine. It may not be super exciting today, but it's fine. There's food in the fridge. The bills are paid. I'm reasonably healthy. Things like that. Gratitude lists are great. Other grounding techniques are great. You can look those up online. But staying in the moment is really important when we're sort of in that negative headspace and don't want to do our recovery. We need to create balance in our lives. This means, look, all work, all recovery, and no play makes Scott a dull, bored, resentful, recovering addict who's very likely to relapse. I need to have some fun. I need some joy in my life. If I'm not enjoying my life, why am I living it this way? I didn't get sober so I could be bored and resentful and irritable and stuck. I got sober so I could live my life. And sometimes when I'm not feeling it with recovery, it's because I've not living my life. This time of year, it's July here. It's been hot for the last couple of weeks. This is probably why I had the blahs this morning, because it's too hot to get out on my bike. It's too hot to, go for a walk. It's the things that it's too hot to go walk around downtown and shop, or things that I like to do. It's just too damn hot. So I need to find other ways to have a good time. I need to have people over for movie night or just a dinner party. I need to do some fun things. So I need to relook at my green circle and say, actually, I think I'm going to do this. I need to have a 9 months of the year green circle and then a 3 months when it's super hot in Palm Springs green circle. Like, here are the things I can do when I can't do all the normal stuff. We need to consciously engage in happiness. We need to socialize. Socializing is big. I mean, I can read a book and that'll pass the time, but and I'll enjoy it, but it doesn't give me joy the way that hanging out with a bunch of friends will. So we need to be social. And the last thing I want to talk about is what I call obstacle immunity. I got this concept from a guy named Joe DeCina, who created Spartan races. He had a TV show for a while where they had this crazy obstacle course race. I used to do some writing for him, and he was always talking about obstacle immunity. And Joe started his professional career on Wall Street, and he was kicking butt. He was one of those 20-something wonder kids who was just making money hand over fist, and he hated his life. He hated getting out of bed. So he chucked it all one day, cashed out, bought some land in rural New York, and changed his life. He found his true north. His true north is developing obstacle immunity in other people and in himself. This is a guy who runs like ultra marathons, like 100 miles through the Death Valley. I mean, he thinks that's fun. I think he's crazy, but in a good way. And Tami, who runs a lot, is like, no, that's crazy.
Yeah, that is that is still crazy. So yeah. But
But what he does, he'll take like somebody who comes back from Afghanistan with their legs shot off and they think their life is over. And he'll say, okay, Chicago Marathon's in October, you're entered. And they'll look at him like he's insane. And he said, today we're going to strap on your new legs. Tomorrow we're going to walk to the mailbox and back. And then we're going to walk to the end of the street and back. And we're going to walk around the block the next day. Then we're going to start jogging. And 6 months from now, you're going to run the marathon. And these people run the damn marathon. He teaches them that no obstacle is too big. Now, what happens is they start looking for obstacles. They start looking for challenges because the process of overcoming them helps. That's living life. It's like, oh, I can do anything. Pick what I want to do. I'm going to go do it. This is what we call obstacle immunity. As recovering addicts, as betrayed partners, sometimes when we're feeling stuck, we need a challenge. Like, I'm going to inject some life into my life by thinking of something that kind of looks impossible, but that I'd like to do. And I'm going to friggin' do it. And I'm going to learn from, the same way that Joe DeCina teaches people. Today, I'm going to walk to the mailbox and back. Tomorrow, I'm going to walk to the end of the street. We do a little bit at a time and we build up our strength and our tool set. And suddenly we're doing the impossible. And you want to feel good about your life, do the impossible. Set yourself a challenge. So, see, now I'm excited. I'm out of my blocks.
Yeah.
So, Tami, do you have any thoughts
I
on
do.
anything of
It's
that?
I actually like, I'm gonna have to look up this Joe guy, but like, I'm all over that. Like, I've run a marathon. Was it grueling? Absolutely. I've run bunches of half marathons. But yeah, the ultra marathon, I'm not going to sign up for that, but like, yeah, I did a little mini triathlon. I hate being in water and cold and all that. And I did it, I find that really empowering. I have a mostly can do attitude because, I mostly can figure it out. If I don't know how to do something, I can get, support and help. Joe's guiding these people and going like, yeah, I'm coming alongside you. And that's what recovery is all about, is coming alongside. I was thinking when you're talking about gratitude, I live by the gratitude list, but I was thinking, there are times when I go to a meeting and my only focus is I'm going to go and see if I can be of service. And I'm going to do it, it's kind of like that pay it forward where you don't get caught doing it. Like, I'm going to do it with my intention of being of service, not telling anybody I'm here to be of service. It's absolutely, I'm doing it from the standpoint of like, what can I give? It's not what do I need or what am I going to get today? And I always, the end result is I get gratitude. I get, that good feeling of like, yeah, I've plugged in, I've connected. You talked about connection, and I think that is so key because, addiction is really isolating. And if we are disconnected, then we can get more in those doldrums. And, so the more, I know I am vulnerable if I am stuck. I've talked about this before. COVID sucked for me, because it was like, everybody stay away from everybody. And I'm like, a people person. I need to be around people. I love to, when you're talking about going to a meeting, there was, this is a while ago, but I missed my noon meeting and I really wanted to go to a meeting and I had to drive, cross town to do an errand. And I looked on my app because we all have apps that tell us where meetings are. And I found this meeting in this off place and it was the most different meeting from what I normally go to. I loved it. And I would go back there, if I needed to go that direction again. I find, when I travel, I go to meetings and I find, I always, first of all, I'm always with people that are like me, even if I don't know any of them and their life stories are completely different, that we're all on this path. So there's that, every time I go to a 12-step meeting, and that's what I missed, and I was in recovery for at least 10 years. I don't even remember, but I had a long period, but I still will never do that again. I will never ever take a break from going to. I was doing other recovery things, so I'm not justifying at all. But I'm telling you, I missed it, and I learned a lesson. I didn't return to my problematic behaviors, but I missed out, and I also missed the opportunity, to be of help and service to other people. So
Yeah.
I won't do it again. Um, and then you were also talking about creating balance. And I think we suck at balance. We're
Yes, we do.
all one way or the other. It's either great or it's horrible, and whatever. Or yeah. So yes, learning to have the balance. And I love that you were considering, like, I need to have a different green circle for my summer because things shift. And so because I understand this, because I'm thinking, if you have riding your bicycle on your outer circle and you're going, now your outer circle is like, oh, it's a loss because I can't go do that. So I love that you're going, like, how can I reframe this so that there are positive things that I can do, that will be meaningful for me during this time. And then if there's a bonus day when it's a little cooler and you get out on your bike, whew, that's great. But yeah, I love all of these things. And I think it's really important to know what your true north is. And I know for sure that in my active addiction and even in early recovery, I had no clue what that was. So that's part of the joy of doing the recovery work, is we can figure out, who we really are. And I mean, I believe I know my true north, but I can always refine, even I'm always learning more about myself and ways to do things differently. But I do think it's really important to not have it be just, like, life can't just be recovery stuff. Like, I tell partners this too. So if partners are only focused on, listening to every podcast, doing everything, no, go have coffee with a friend and not talk about any of this stuff. Like, do things that give you that
Even as
break.
couples in recovery,
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, okay, we're going to have date night and we're going to, go axe throwing, and we are not going to talk about any of our problems. We're just going to, like, throw the axes and have a good time. I
Hmm.
think I want to go axe throwing. We don't have it here, but
My husband was in Minnesota, and I have pictures. He went. So yeah.
my
So
sister went axe throwing. She said she had a blast. I'm like, okay, I'm
yeah,
going to do
there you
it.
go.
So,
There's a new thing. Yeah, but that would be a new thing. See,
yeah,
that's another. I'm going to do things that are different, and I'm sure there's some place around you that you could do that. So, yeah, I think it's really important. Like you mentioned, the happiness too. In the 12-step big book, big book, it talks. We are not a glum lot. You can tell that this was written a really long time ago, but we are not a glum lot. We have got to find. And my therapist in treatment, she flat out told me, I was young at the time, and she said, if you do not make recovery fun, you will not make it. And I mean, this is a long time later, and I still remember her steely green or gray eyes, her looking at me and saying that, and I was scared. So I was the opposite of you. I was like, I was so scared. I never thought I had it. Like, I was terrified every day that I was going to, accidentally, act out, which didn't happen. So that was like, but I grabbed onto recovery and whatever, well, my life depended on it, and it did. Like, I knew for sure that the path I was going down, I was going to die. And I knew for sure, because these people kept telling me, if you do these things, life can be different. And I believed them. So yeah, this is a great topic. Okay, so yeah.
I'm
And
glad we did
don't
this.
you already
Actually,
feel better? So
I do.
it's all about us. Okay, so Scott, the first question, betrayer here, 10 years into the relationship, 6 months post discovery. How can I relate to my partner when he expresses hurt, feeling damaged, uncared for, and disrespected by my past actions? How I exposed him to chronic illness and other things while acting out. I am trying to express how much I regret my past actions, how I can't change them, and how I want to move forward. I sometimes feel like no matter what I do, it's never enough, but I know that it's my insecurities. I want to connect to him and help him heal, but I always seem to do the wrong thing, even to do it with the best intentions. What can I do? That's a great question. And I got to tell you, this is so common. So, I mean, like, honestly, I go, yep, you're right on track at 6 months. So
Yeah, the fact that you're asking this question is such a good sign. It shows that you're moving out of the me narcissism of addiction and into the, oh my goodness, other people on the planet actually have thoughts and feelings and they matter. And, um, actually, the topic I was going to do today was a little bit about this. And how can I apologize? Well, 9 times out of 10, when people 99.999 times out of whatever, when people apologize, they're not really trying to apologize. They're trying to calm the other person down. I'm trying to manipulate you into toning it down because I feel uncomfortable when you're ramped up. That's what I'm trying to do when I apologize. And guess what? It doesn't friggin' work. All right. Um, so we need to slow the process down. We acknowledge, validate, and respond. Acknowledge, yes, I did these things. I cheated. I did this. I gave you chronic illnesses or exposed you to them. Um, we acknowledge what we did. All right. That's the easy part, by the way. That's the easy part. Then validate means validate what they're feeling. And this is the difficult part. You must be feeling less than and insecure and like you don't matter, probably scared that I'm going to do it again. You know, is our relationship, all these things. And we validate how they're feeling. And we don't rush through this, acknowledge, I did this, and this. Is that what you're bringing up right now? Or is that what we want to, make sure I've got it and I've fully acknowledged the topic of the moment. And then the validation, the feelings, make sure I understand, Tami, I think you're feeling this, this, and this. Is that correct? And she's going to be like, well, you got the first two, but the third one's way off. What I'm really feeling, and if I don't understand that, I need to get curious. Can you tell me more? Oh, that's interesting. I didn't think of that. Can you tell me more about why you're feeling that? I need to validate, the other person's feelings. And I need to really understand where those feelings are coming from. Once I get that, then I can respond. That restitution, it's like, oh, wow. Then I can say, hey, I'm so sorry. I really didn't want to cause you to feel that way. I hate that I did that. Here's what I'm doing about it. I can't undo the past, but I can behave differently today and tomorrow and the next day and forever after. Acknowledge it, validate the feelings. And that's the big one. I mean, most betrayed partners, if you just understood the pain I'm in, that would, it's like, okay, let me understand the pain you're in. And then the response, the restitution is easy. Usually it's like it just follows like, oh wow, then we really are sorry. So that's my advice here is, let your partner express the hurt, and lean into it. And we tend to, as addicts, get really defensive because, when somebody's hurt, it pushes our shame button. It pushes, we start to feel, and we get defensive and we start to mansplain or, blame. Yeah, but no. If you say yes, but you have lost, you have blown it. Tell me more. So anyway, Tami, thoughts there?
I do. I like a visual of like I'm holding my hands out in front of me. You can't see it, but I do this and I'm taking the emotions here. So I'm not a sponge. I'm not taking on those emotions. And that helps because it gives I'm holding a container. I'm holding onto those emotions. I'm listening. But you knew all along that you were acting out. Your partner found out 6 months ago. So it's a completely different trajectory for healing. And I'm with Scott. And the one other thing I would add with that is, and don't go, oh, I'm so horrible. Because guess what? That makes it all about you again, So it's like, I'm holding this space. And it's okay to say, this is really difficult and I'm not going to do it great. And I'm going to try my best. And here's another one I think is really helpful is when you're not in that moment, ask your partner when this happens, because it will happen again, what is most helpful, what would be useful for you, what is not useful, like don't, like I see some people leaning in to give a hug. I always feel like that is manipulative of like, oh, I'm going to comfort you because I want you to shut up, versus I'm going to hold, I'm going to hold. So ask, what would be welcomed in that moment and what is not welcome? How can I best hold the space? And if it starts getting going sideways, if you're starting to really, get dysregulated and feeling defensive, it's okay to say, I'm going to ask for a timeout. Again, preface this before you get into one of these, and I'm not abandoning. But I need to go regulate so that I can hold the space, and then come back in the stated amount of time. Set your timer on your phone if you need to, and don't be late. But then, try again. There are so many tools to use. You guys are both early in this process, and I applaud that you are asking the question. I did put in the chat there's a men's, because I saw him for betrayed partner. There's a men's only drop-in group for male betrayed partners on Tuesday nights. The Sunday night is a mixed gender. Those are the two groups that male partners, are welcome to participate in, and any webinars, of course. And then the work group, Scott mentioned it earlier, the betrayed partner work group would be fantastic for your partner. There's things for you too, but for your partner. And then that Angela, that is a mixed gender group, and Angela is great at facilitating that. So we have lots of resources, support sessions. Scott and I and two other people all offer 25 or 50-minute support sessions. So people that are a little stuck and need a little help, there's a lot of things that are offered on our site. So okay. Rob always says living successfully in recovery is one step above being boring. I find that to be true. If I can tap into gratitude, I can take a small step above that. If not, I'm future tripping or living in the past or resentment. I feel your comments, Scott. Yeah, and Dr. Rob says that a lot. I think his was a really intensity seeking, behaviors. And so, like a normal life would be very boring. So I think that depends, and I do, I've bungee jumped. I'm like, I do lots of things that would be still a little adrenaline junkie things, so I don't think it has to be like super monotonous and oatmeal.
Yeah, I actually hate it when Rob says that. I mean, I don't disagree with him, but I don't like it when he says that because it's not a good motivator.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, life can be really fun. It's just differently. I mean, I just spent, this is me. I like this. I love Shakespeare. I love plays. I love theater. I just went with some friends up to the Shakespeare Festival in Oregon for a week, and we had a blast. And that wasn't boring at all. Now some people, I told my mother and my sister that I was doing it, and they went, "Really?"
Oh, I think it's great. And you know what? You remember it, and you didn't make a fool of yourself,
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. So, no, I don't think my life is boring. When my life gets boring is when I get the blahs and I need to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not, a 10-lane superhighway driving 120 miles an hour anymore either.
Right. Yeah. But it's, we've both talked about connections, and connections are really key. In addiction, we are not connected, like we are all about us, and we don't really care about other people. We can't, because then we would have to stop our problematic behavior. So this is very different. It's a different level. But I remember the fun things I do. I remember the meaningful conversations I have. I'm not, in a blackout, or, I'm not causing myself problems that I go, oh gosh, what did I do now? So I don't, I have tons of gratitude for my life, and it is, by, I'm sure, some standards, monotonous or boring, but gosh, I just, like, I have so many good things. So, okay. How can you tell the betrayer has true remorse for what he did and how he devastated me? V's have remorse for getting caught and the fact that I am now enforcing strong consequences. Hmm. I'm
It sounds like you're asking for empathy,
okay.
which is what we discussed in that first
Oh,
question. It's like,
versus having remorse. I was
yeah,
like, B, I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Versus having remorse for getting caught. Okay, thank you. I completely was caught on that. So I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Betrayed partners always, I just want some empathy. I just want you to know how much you hurt me. And you'll know when he starts being curious about your feelings. And I think you must be feeling this, not that. Up until early recovery, I'm sorry, addicts, it's all about us still. you know, oh, woe is me, consequences. Oh, woe is me, that I have to change. La, da, da. It's all about me. Um, Empathy comes, unfortunately, a little later. um, Understanding how I've hurt someone and actually, you know, leaning into that as motivation for behavior change, it does not tend to happen right away. How can you tell when that happens? You'll know. I mean, your gut will tell you, oh, that was different. Huh. He actually focused on me for 3 seconds. Interesting. um, and then it'll be, oh, he actually focused on me for a minute and a half. Oh my goodness, he's changing. You'll notice. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's pretty obvious when they go from that one person mindset to a two-person mindset. It's like, oh, the person number two is starting to matter. That's a big change. um, I describe that as, people say, what was your spiritual awakening like, Scott? And I was like, oh, I started to realize that other people have thoughts and feelings that matter, and that when I behave certain ways, I impact them. Oh crap. you know so if I keep doing that, I'm going to be all alone for the rest of my life. I need to, so anyway, Tammy, thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a higher order skill, and
Oh
so that is not early recovery.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that is a learned. We can learn, but just like Scott was saying, it's like you have to. At first, it's like I just don't want to have the negative consequences, and then now it's like okay, my life is starting to get better. Oh wait. And honestly, with partners, it is the most vulnerable place to practice empathy. Like the person earlier mentioned, it's like I do it wrong. It's easier to learn to practice on people that you're not as close to, like recovering community, et cetera. And it's not fair, but it's just how it is, because there's less at risk with that. So, and there's old patterns, when you've been in a relationship for, years, you tend to fall back into those patterns. So learning to change those patterns, and you are saying, I've got strong consequences. Great. That's setting a framework for you taking care of yourself, and then hopefully your betrayer partner going, oh wait, I need to change. When it's internalized and I need to change for myself, that's when, then you can really start having the willingness to learn to have empathy. So, but like, this empathy is not something that's going to happen in the first couple of months. It just isn't. It's like we don't have the capacity. We don't know. We have a lot of growing up to do. Or like I was talking to John Taylor, and I said, I always say we're in kindergarten. And then he was talking about his 3-year-old. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been giving us credit for being like 2 years older than we actually are emotionally, when we start, doing this work. So we can grow up, and it won't take chronologically the same amount of time. But the more recovery work that is being done, the faster that can go. If it's like, oh, I'm going to one 12-step meeting a week and seeing my therapist once once every week or two. Don't anticipate, change, and really hold those healthy boundaries. Speaking of boundaries, Debbie McCrae has boundaries work groups for betrayed partners that are excellent at helping identify boundaries, both internal and external, and what the consequences, can be. So it's not control or punishment, but for partners to learn how to and to have the support to hold them, because addicts are really good at trying to mow them all down. So, okay, there's a two-parter. I am the betrayed partner. My husband told me in front of his therapist he is completely recovered after 6 months. Wow, I don't know anybody who's done that. And he has no shame and feels the best he's ever felt. This is 2 weeks after he abruptly turned on me and said he is leaving me and our children. Hasn't actually left yet, and he has crossed all boundaries I initially set. Opening bank accounts he won't share with me, taking half of his income so we can't pay the bills. All this abuse is back in full swing. Darvo and blaming any relationship problems on me. His therapist said nothing in the moment, and I was the one who voiced for these reasons he isn't in active, meaningful recovery. The therapist has cut me out and said he can't hold my husband accountable at all. He also will not be a partner, sensitive, supportive. What do I do? He is in the house, but absent, passive, aggressive, mean, and then nice again. He is secretly packing his stuff and lying to me. He lied to the entire family. He told his family I'm the problem because I have in writing, he is not the only one who contributed to the mess. His family always enabled his two siblings in their addictions for years. He gave up drinking the day of our D-Day, but he packed and hid all the liquor in his room. And he told me today he is bringing it for when he moves out. Basically, is planning to go back into multiple forms of addiction. I just don't know what to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to give any advice or thoughts here because this is such a complicated situation and we don't know all the facts. I don't know if his therapist is a CSAT or not. I don't know if it's his therapist or your couple's therapist. There's a lot of his and I. Very much two single person systems living in this house right now. There doesn't feel like from this description there's much of an us at all. Something's got to give here. Nobody's completely recovered after 6 months. Nobody's completely recovered ever. I will be an addict the day I die. It's like diabetes or heart disease. I get a daily reprieve when I take my medicine, so to speak. There's a whole bunch of red flags here. And Tami will talk about what support are you getting, and that's kind of my thought is like at this point, what support are you getting? Because it sounds like he has zero interest. From what you say, he has zero interest in changing. Now, we're on roller coasters. Sometimes we want to change, sometimes we don't. So I don't, but I'm going to turn this one over to Tami because I think she's better suited.
Well, so who cares what his family thinks? Like, right. I know you care, and I don't mean to be trite, but like you got a whole bunch of somebody's perception. Your lying addict is telling his family whatever. It doesn't matter. He's still in the house. Why? What is your healthy boundary around? And again, zero judgment. You need to, but I was like, this is awful. He's living there. He's pretending like he's in recovery. He's not. I mean, he's not. Like I can just from reading this, he's packing up his liquor. He didn't get rid of the liquor. So he had a plan. He had a stash, and he may have not drank for X amount of time. Maybe yes, who knows? But what is your goal with this? If your goal is to keep an active addict in the house, then I mean you already have that. So you can't keep him, but you can set boundaries to have the situation change. And I've shared often, I'll go find it too, but should I stay or should I go? Like what is in this relationship for you? And I hope that you do have qualified support for you, because the therapist, who's supporting you with this? How are you getting support to hold healthy boundaries? Because when an active addict is making all the decisions and you're just ping-ponging off whatever they're doing. Oh, he's in the house, but he's going to drink and he's blaming me and all, where is the empowerment for you to make a decision for your healthy financial? Because you said he's setting up accounts. He's doing everything that was, not agreed to, physical, emotional, financial, and spiritual. How are your boundaries set up? What is the consequences, and what do you need to do for you so that you're not betraying you in this very chaotic system? So I hope you are getting, like, we have lots of resources. PAMI at seekingintegrity.com if you need a qualified professional to support you. And then somebody said, is there a cost for the 25 or 50-minute support sessions? Yes. I put the link in the chat there on our site, and you can pick who you want to work with. I've got one scheduled for later today. So yeah, I honestly, I love helping people support people.
Just for the record, I'm actually off the calendar for a little while. I'll probably be back on the calendar for those August or
David and Jason are males. If somebody prefers a male, I'm not a male, so I don't qualify. So, but I work with, addict, trade partner, or couple. So, I'm happy to work with you if you want. There's others that do the same. So, okay. My partner calls me her rapist when she does 2 years into recovery. Makes me feel so much shame and makes me think that we will never recover. I've tried addressing this with her, but it continues to happen. I am so sorry. Yeah, can you help with this one?
There's a therapist out there. I'm not going to give you his name, but I think he does more harm than good. And he talks about sex addict as offenders, and he uses words like that. I don't know if your wife has watched one of his videos or something. It's so shaming. It's so, it has such an implication, and it does nothing to heal the relationship if someone uses language like that. What I said earlier about the AVR, acknowledge, yes, I did some things to hurt you. Can you tell me what you're feeling that causes you to use that word? But healthy boundaries as addicts, we get to set healthy boundaries too. I'm not sure I would, I would have a boundary around that. And if you do that again, I'm going to leave the house for 48 hours or something. I mean, you need to set a boundary because that's very unsafe for you. And look, when we feel unsafe, guess what we want to do? We want to go relapse. This is not helping anybody, that language. Yeah, I'm sad and sorry that that's happening. And hopefully she will get some support that will help her understand the reality of addiction versus offending.
Yeah, and we talk, there's a legal definition for rapist, so, and then we say, call the police. So, and again, not being flip or trite, I feel for you. And I'm also wondering, what is the goal for the relationship at 2 years in? People who are really doing the recovery work are starting to see things, they're like going, oh, wow, we can see this path. I often refer, Dr. Rob did a podcast with Dr. Stan Tatkin, January of 2019. And it is on sex, love, and addiction. And I think it's really helpful because we do in a healthy relationship, we are doing things that are good for the relationship. Name calling, and even if it's not, with this much vitriol, is still a problem. If this is a person that we want to be in a relationship with, why would we not want to partner, come alongside, and work towards, a better future together? So yeah, I'm deeply concerned about this. And yes, and Gavin Sharp did a webinar a number of years ago on why addicts need boundaries. Matt Wheeler has talked about in healthy relationships, the healthy relationships have the most boundaries because everybody knows what the expectations are. Why would we not want to, be moving together on a healing path? Yeah, I'm sure there's fear and distrust and everything else, and it keeps the partner safe. If I'm name calling, I'm pushing somebody away, but that doesn't heal the relationship or heal me as an individual. So I'm sad, and I would really attend to that. So
Yeah.
okay, my partner has been doing all the right things, going to meetings, showing up at the etc. a few years now. He recently had a slip and then a relapse. Why is this happening, and how do we pick up the pieces and reset post relapse? Why does relapse happen when we're doing all the right things? That's another great question.
Yeah. So you're the betrayed partner. You asked this question. So the first thing I want to say is his addiction is not about you, and his addiction is not about the relationship the two of you have. His addiction is about him. He's doing the right things. He's going to meeting. He's showing empathy. He may have some deep underlying issues. The trauma work is now overdue. The drivers of addiction are, childhood trauma, a little bit genetics, but mostly, family dysfunction early in life that leaves us feeling less than, used, manipulated, not good enough. And rather than turning to other people, we turn to a substance or behavior. Because a substance or behavior doesn't judge me. I can go look at porn. There's no judgment. If I drink a quart of vodka, I know exactly what's going to happen. If I tell my wife I'm struggling, or my therapist or my sponsor I'm struggling, they might reject me. Now, even though you and his sponsor and his therapist almost certainly would not reject him, his brain, because of his childhood trauma, is telling him that you will. His shame is taken over, and he went to a slip and a relapse for relief. He needs to double down on recovery, identify these early trauma issues, and start working on them. Sometimes when guys have some recovery and slip or relapse, they come to inpatient and do an intensive. If that's possible and affordable for you, I highly recommend it. If not, it's doubling down, finding a good trauma therapist, really uncovering this stuff and working on it. But I can't stress enough, it is not about you. It's not in any way a judgment on you or a reflection of you or your relationship. He still has struggles that started way before he met you. And he needs to deal with them. Tammy, anything to add or that?
I actually put the attachment wound group in the I was thinking, oh, it feels like if we, maybe working on some attachment would,
Good place to start for
well,
him.
and here's the other thing is, I think doing an autopsy on what happened, because something happened, and it might have been 2 weeks before the relapse, the slip or whatever, where I gave myself permission or I didn't. So you can be going through the motions and look like you're doing things right, and then there's am I really doing a searching and fearless moral inventory on a daily basis? Am I really paying attention, to what's going on? Because if I was doing my daily, check-in, I would be going like, I'm like all of the things that I know are my yellow circle, like, oh, I'm bored, I'm stressed, I'm whatever. Like I've been slighted, I've been abandoned, I've been rejected, whatever, drama. Like I would have it and I'd go, oh, I need to attend to this. I need to talk to my therapist. I need to talk to my sponsor. I need to do something, that will, but I would have the realization. And again, love, that you're doing well overall, but this is an opportunity to go, what do I need to do to shore up? Because there was clearly a vulnerability, that there's a gap, there's something that, that gave permission to do the slip. And it's again why we say there's no, I'll never do that again, because this is real life, but there's an opportunity to do some deeper work to identify, okay, I mean, I have massive abandonment and rejection wounds. And now I know, and now I go, oh, that's that getting poked. And what am I going to do so that I don't go do something negative? It's a learning process. You've learned more. and it's an opportunity to learn more from that. So, okay. Do we have time? How much time do you have? One more or?
This is a big question.
Oh, I didn't read
So,
it. Okay. Attic partner here. My husband asked me why I'm still in the relationship and I don't know how to respond. I just feel, but I don't know how to explain it. He brings up things that happened during active addiction, preferring other people before him sexually, emotionally, and spending time with others before him, as well as questions. If all this, why do you want to keep it going? If not, when I loved you unconditionally, why now that I'm hurt? I don't know how to answer these questions without falling victim or justifying or excusing my actions. Um, and I think I I don't know if is that next part of that one, do you think?
no, that
Okay,
makes it's a follow-up to the
that's
other one.
separate. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So,
Um, so why do addicts stay in the relationship? Because they love their partner. Addicts do not act out because they don't love their partner. Addicts do not act out. I mean, I'll ask guys who've had affairs, was he or she as pretty as your partner? No. As smart and funny? No. As interesting? No. Why'd you do it? Different, new, taboo, escape. It's all about emotional escape. For addicts, when why are you still with me? The only way to respond is to say, I love you and I want to make this work, and I know I screwed it up, and I know I hurt you. Um, I want to work on it. And, again, acknowledge what I did, validate what I totally understand why you're feeling this. I totally understand why you're confused, and wondering if I love you or not. You know, and I'm sorry I did that to you. I do love you. I'm working on it. I'm going to behave differently. I'm going to try to behave differently. I may or may not do this perfectly. Probably not. Um, we get into relationships because we care about the other person, and we stay in relationships because we care about the other person. Addictions have nothing to do with care and connection. Addictions are the opposite of care and connection. I engage with those other people because they don't mean anything to me, because they can't hurt me, things like that. Again, this is, addict trauma, causes us to feel less than, not good enough. So instead of turning to someone who we know loves us and who we know we love, we'll turn to something that has no risk. And that's alcohol, drugs, prostitutes, porn, whatever. Even affair partners are no risk. I mean, affairs are dinner out and hotel sex. That's not a relationship. Relationships are holding their hand when they're vomiting after three drinks, or paying bills together and splitting the chores. That's a relationship. Arguing about whose day it is to pick the kids up, that's a relationship. Relationships are hard. Addictions are easy. Addictions are the easy way out, but they just rob us of life. So, how do you explain this to your partner? I don't think you explain it. I think you show it. Love is a verb. Love is an action. Love is not a word. It's an action. And you're going to be rigorously honest. You're going to own up to your mistakes. You're going to hold your partner's feelings. You're going to be curious about your partner's feelings. And you're going to change your behavior. But relationship trust is never going to be what it once was. It's never going to be as unconditional. It's just not. I'll finish, and Tami can add if she wants to. There's a form of Japanese pottery. They make a teapot and then they smash it. And then they piece it back together with little gold filament. And they think the pots are more beautiful for having been broken. And that's how I view relationships that have been impacted by addiction. If we do the repair work, which is meticulous and time consuming, we can end up with something that's far more beautiful than what we had before. But we have to go through these moments like you're just describing, which are really hard. So that's enough for me. Tammy?
Yeah, and I was thinking that too. It's like lip service is going to be irrelevant. I often say love is an action verb. It's an action. Like, what am I doing to show you? And all the things Scott said. I'm over here dissociated. It's not. It's intensity rather than intimacy. And so you showing up, but I hear the fear in your partner. I hear the fear of, like, why are you staying? Why are you even in? If all of those other things, and this is a very common situation for partners, where I don't feel good enough. You chose all of those other people instead of me. You chose images instead of me. So how can I ever measure up? And it isn't. And sex addiction isn't about sex. So it's one of those things. It's about escape, intensity, all of those things. So this is the long game. We talk about recovery is 2 to 5 years. The more you show up and are consistently doing the things that are the mundane things of life, like like the laundry list of laundry and everything else. That's what starts to change things. So thanks everybody. I'm sorry we won't get to all of the questions. And there's some good ones in there. So anyway, I will we do not have a Thursday morning this week, and we will not have a Friday this week. But we've got some special edition webinars again coming up. So we welcome you joining those. Stay on. In fact, Angela Spearman is joining for a special edition webinar on Monday night instead of the live Q&A. Angela's got a topic, so check that one out. It will be an interesting one. So thanks, everyone. Bye.